I know how to solve bonking. Now, I'm not the nutritionist. Don't ask me any questions about that. It worked for me in that instance. It could have been very particular and specific, but it gave me confidence to know there's different ways to assess this kind of stuff. And ultimately, through those 13 days, I learned whatever crap you can ride yourself into, you can work yourself out of.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Inside Out Alignment Show, episode number 10. Today we have with us Jonathan Wolter. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you?
Really, really good. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jonathan, but before we start, I'm going to have him give you a little bit of his background and have him tell us who he is.
Let's go from things I wouldn't want to give up first. How about that? So,
Sure.
married guy, so husband, father, son, friend, and finisher of the Everesting challenge 4 times in the last 3 years.
Yeah, which is bananas. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I would say a guy who's really mastered this competence to confidence idea that I keep talking about. And we'll kind of get into it in a little bit here. So, but before we get started, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends. So Jonathan and I go back, gosh, 4 decades. So we grew up together in the same small town, worked together a little bit, and we had a lot of common interests. And him and I had a very similar upbringing in school, kind of not having an environment that was conducive to building, but I would say confidence, feeling supported, kind of being set up for success, right? We just didn't have that in our lives. So that's the things we have in common. So as we kind of get started here, I want to talk about what that time in your life was like. Jonathan, age 5, 10, 15, 16. Talk me through a little bit about that and kind of what the self-talk was like back then.
5, 10, 16. That's where that's a harder question for me to answer because I was really good at thinking that everyone else had the same life I did growing
Yeah.
up. I would project how my world was upon everyone else, and probably not until 16 did I start to become a little more aware of that. But for most of 5 and 10, it was just sliding by, hiding, trying not to draw attention to yourself, and living small, thinking small, I think I'd call it. I can tell you the day, and I can take you to the exact seat I was sitting in the lunchroom in high school on a random Tuesday morning in the spring when I was a junior. And I looked around and I was like, no one's actually in charge here. And by that, I meant the class of students.
Yeah.
But there was nobody who was like, this is what needs to be done. And here's what's people were just, everyone was so worried about what everyone else thought.
Yeah.
And that was a freeing moment for me. Now, the funny thing is within high school, you're in high school, so you're still affected by what everyone else thinks. That was the beginning of then a number of months for junior year and then all of senior year to let me digest that. When I went off to college, then I lit the fuse on fire because then no one knew me and I was just totally free to be myself.
So let's go back real quick. Let's go back to before you kind of had that epiphany, right? And I know you said it's, not much is expected of me, but I'm really curious about the self-talk because I know, like, just for example, like my self-talk was pretty much I'm invisible, not smart, not athletic. Girls don't notice me. Like my self-talk was, as I think about it now, was so incongruent with building a self-image. It was the opposite, right? My self-image every day was just shrinking. And so these stories, the self-talk, directly translate into how we're perceived in our world. So I'm just curious how that was for you.
I would say mine was more wrapped around you don't want attention. So move your way through life day by day, week by week, month without drawing attention to yourself.
All
Yeah.
right. So this is really good because again, I feel like you and I had fairly similar paths once we kind of got out of high school and we kind of came into our own, if you will, kind of understood we could control our destiny. We could be the person we knew who we were, not what we thought
Yeah.
we were or who we were told we were. And so the theme of this particular episode is competence to confidence. And when I look at you, I just see layer upon layer upon layer of competence. And oh, by the way, just the most authentic confidence I think you could muster, I see in you. And so we played volleyball. When we were younger, we transitioned into playing some basketball, and you're 6'7". I wasn't that tall, but I had a vertical jump. So we actually did dunk hoops. That was a thing. So we kind of had um, the things that we did together that I think built our competencies. But I want to step back and just, talk about, for me, for you, it was volleyball. It was then golf. It was then cycling. So just talk me through kind of this evolution of building the competency in these different areas, and then how that translated in your opinion to, authentic confidence.
Well, when you spread that across the areas, as volleyball was further away, that was in college. I played in the club team, so our University of Wisconsin lacrosse did not have a men's volleyball team, but there were enough guys that are interested in playing that we formed a club that then played against other club teams from other colleges. I forget that it's not NCAA. Anyway, I walked onto the team in tryouts, having played some sand with you through that summer, really having no indoor skills. And like, if I was the coach recruiting me, I'd be like, hey, see you later. This is not good. But by the end of that season, then making all tournament team in the middle of that. So it was just a matter of I get in around this group and figure it out and just be okay with looking like a clown. As long as you're learning and getting better, you're going to show up and you're going to get there.
So then I know after volleyball kind of subdued, you still have a passion for it. And I know you talk a lot about it. You developed a very good talent for golf. And we don't have to go too much into golf because I know your latest, more recent passion is cycling. So maybe briefly talk to me. And I know I've asked you this question before, like how the hell did you get so good at golf so quickly? So let's talk on that. And again, this is like, it's kind of like when you open up a dike, the water comes out really fast. And I feel like with both of us, once we realized, oh, this is how you build competence, it's just the spigot's wide open and you start doing all these things and building competencies. And it's like this exponential growth. So first question, just briefly talk me through and how you, in my opinion, right, my perspective was you just developed an insane ability to play that game really well. And then let's talk about cycling.
The golf story started when the volleyball world started to shrink for me. It was just like I couldn't find high enough level play. I tell your story all the time. Like when you came to University of Wisconsin lacrosse and we were playing there, and you were like, "Dude, listen, here's the deal. You need to play as much ball here as you can because post college, you're not going to find it." I heard you. I listened to it. I didn't understand it, but I heard it and I listened to it, and I thank God for it because yes, after college, you can't find it. I needed something else to sink my teeth into. Was dabbling with golf, met a guy out here, good friend of mine now, and we just kept working on the game together. How to pick that up and play through it. We didn't train like other people. So a lot of time, a lot of reps, but we would work on the tough stuff. One of our favorite drills there was we go to the range with each other. You each get 3 balls to the other guy, trying to get the closest to the pin, and you get to set or drop his ball. So I'm trying to drop it in the biggest divot, the nastiest hole. I want to give him awful conditions that I win. And so we're not just there at the range banging balls. Every shot we're working on is a shot we're working on. So you're playing at the range like you would on the course, if that makes sense, versus you see other people out there with 100 balls and they're just ripping drivers and trying to see how far they can hit. Like, no, that's not, practice the way you're going to play and play the way you've practiced. So
Yeah, that kind of touches on this idea of 10,000 hours to become a master at anything. And I think the takeaway in all of that is it's purposeful practice over time gets you closer to, being an expert or
yep.
what have you. Right. And
Yeah.
I saw that in you. So, all right. So let's move to cycling. So how did you get into cycling? Kind of tell me what that's been like for you in terms of the evolution of how to build competencies and expertise.
Let me exit golf on one shot. Late in the round, playing well, hit a great tee shot up near the green, thinking, okay, chip and birdie, and it might be par in this round, might be under par. We're in the 15th hole, looking good. Skull the chip across the green. I'm back up in some tree roots down the other. Like it went from awesome to awful in one stroke. And in the 40, I don't know, 50, 100 feet, I had to walk to that ball. Like someone else, Don, like God, whoever, hey, dude, let it go. And I did. And so in that walk, in the time of that walk, I let it go and just set up over that next ball, downhill chip, looking at this going, this is right next to a tree root, right? You're not, you're taking strokes here. This is just crap. But I had let all that go and I didn't carry that last shot into the current one. Said, all right, let's just see what we can do with it. And here's my condition. Here's my situation. Chipped it close, putted in, went away unharmed by the score. But more importantly, learned and was like, now there's a nugget there. Now, mind you, that was a few years into all of the struggle where I'd have a blow up hole and then carry it through a few more.
Right.
But that one to this day still resonates that, dude, it's going to happen. It's what you do with it and what you do about it. That having gone through that, having felt that, having done that myself, I've got that to draw back on when those moments happen. I'm like, I remember, right? It's not always going to be smooth and silky. When it's not good, carry forward. And what are you doing on the next shot? So,
yeah, that's the whole he with the shortest memory does well, right? So how quickly can we forget, right? That's really, really good stuff. Hey, thank you for sharing that. All right, so let's transition into cycling. And I know it's your current passion. You spend a lot of time doing it. So talk to me how you got into cycling and like, how that became a thing with you and really how you've based observationally, seen you perform at really, really high levels yet again.
Golf was good, but it wasn't enough. It was mentally challenged, but physically beyond trying to play 54 rounds in the desert here in Phoenix in the summer, 54 holes in the middle of a day because it's cheap. There's no one out there, right? You're exhausted because you've been out in the heat all day, but it wasn't physical enough. And so I needed something more. Bought a mountain bike, was riding that for a while. I like the streets more than I do like the trails. The trails out here are technical. You're watching what you're doing more than just trying to avoid falling over and crashing in the mountain bike than you are really getting your fitness in. So my mountain biking friends will laugh at that. But the bike just really bit and resonated because you get out of it what you put into it. And you have the opportunity to go as hard as you want, as much as you need. And it's a great place to clear your head and just start your day off right. So a number of things lined up well there. I'm a morning person. Most great group rides happen in the morning. So you get up and you go out and get your ride in first. Like I got group rides on Tuesdays and Thursdays now. It's rare I have a bad Tuesday or Thursday
Right.
because I've already gotten the ride in. Like I get done with the ride and I tell the guys often like anything can happen at work. They could fire me today. I'm happy. I'm still good.
This idea of how you begin your day is how you end your day. I feel like the better you begin your day, the more likely your day is just going to be awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
an example. All right. So talk to me then as you keep evolving into cycling and you get into Everesting, which I still don't know. I can wrap my head around what that is, but just talk to me again about your progression because I, follow you from afar and I see this observationally and I see your times and I see the things you're doing. And I'm just like, that's Jonathan. He's just getting after it and killing everybody else in the process. And so talk to me again about, this competency to confidence loop, right? It really is this loop. Like the more competent you become, the more confident you are. And then ultimately, like if anybody knows anything about Everesting, there's probably a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset of people that actually consider doing this. And then the fat tire route you took is like an even 10 more layers down of a subset. So walk me through just again this evolution of competency to confidence in cycling, and then let's get into Everesting.
So there's a few things there. Let me define Everesting for everyone. One ride, same hill over and over repeatedly until you reach 29,000 feet of elevation or the height of Everest. Andy Van Berger, and I forget his entire last name, but it's Andy to me, but came up with this. A guy from Australia threw the challenge around. I'd heard about it through a friend. So my first advice is be very mindful who your friends are. My friend's name's Bob. I don't know if I advise Bob as a friend because you'll see the trend here. Anyway, so this challenge is 29,000 feet of climbing in one ride. You pick a hill and you do the same hill over and over and over until you hit that. A typical Tour de France day, which is not an easy day, 100 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing. That's just ridiculous. And these guys are doing that kind of stuff in 4 to 5 hours. Average human club rider, 6, 7, maybe 8 hours. That's the band I'm in. So then you like I've done some 10,000 foot days. And you think like 3 times that? Like I don't want to do that.
Right.
Where did this come from? And so for the rest of the parameters, I'm 6'6". I hover around 190 pounds. I'm not a climber. I shouldn't be a climber, but that's by the size. It's not by the head.
Right.
I chase climbers all day long. It's what I love to do. So the hill process, all that, you getting into hill day, the road I live on is a hill. The distance of this is from the part I measure through, it's 0.4 of a mile, 150 feet of elevation. On the Everesting loop of that, it's half of that because I've shortened it, but there's a whole other conversation around that. So the hills and the repeat, I bring up Bob because we're climbing my hill one day. We did it 3 times or 10 times. And he's like, you should do like 100 Brookwoods. That is the dumbest crap I've ever heard. Right? What are you stupid? Hey, shut up. What am I doing a month later? I'm going to try that, So then I get 50 in and you're doing 75. Just do the 100. Then I call Bob over 3 months later. We're doing 150 Brookwoods. This is before we'd even heard of Everesting. So then this like repeat the hill over and over thing started to become like you throw the challenge out there and I'll try it. But my first response is that's the dumbest crap I've ever heard. COVID hits. The Lifetime Fitness company has the Leadville 100 mountain bike race and a number of others in this series now. But because of COVID, they couldn't do that race. They said, hey, let's do this 100,000 foot challenge for that summer. So in the month spanning July, which is hot as ever here, how many feet can you climb in like 30 days trying to hit 100,000 feet of climbing. My friend Bob, hey, you should see this challenge. Great. So I'm all right, fine, I'll sign up. So I just start doing some hills, 5,000 feet one day, 2,500 the next. I look in the charts, you're submitting your times, and it's all on your honor. But after like day 3, I was like in 12th place overall, going, well, wait a minute. And that's when it got real. I was like, oh, we're doing this. So then I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, riding my hill over and over, trying to get 3, 4, 5,000 feet in before my workday, before the heat's in, family life and the whole 9 yards. Like, this is stupid. I got the 100,000 feet in 13 days. And the closer we got to the end, the more I was climbing up into that. I ended up being the second guy to hit the 100,000 feet. Now, all the rest of those guys, trust me, they went on and did like a quarter mil, like 250,000 feet. But after my 13 days in July here in Phoenix, I'm like, I'm punching out, man. I hit my 100K. That was my mark. I got it done. I got it done in 13 days. We're good to go.
Right.
In the process of that, to finish it out, my last 3 days were like 10K, 10K, and 9 or 10K or something to get it. And I was chasing and racing with the guy who finished third to get to the 100K. Just he and I online back and forth with, I pitch my time, you pitch yours. And I was like, I got to do this today. That second to last day, dude, I was salt. I was done, just salted out, had nothing left. I'm riding the hill going, it's over. I have 5K today. I got it. I'm going to finish. And the thought occurred to me like, dude, bone broth. You got bone broth, now let's go drink it. And I don't know why. I've never done this before. Went in there, chugged like a quart of bone broth, got it, and it just, my legs came back. I got the energy back, and it was like, I know how to solve bonking. Now, I'm not the nutritionist. Don't ask me any questions about that. It worked for me in that instance. It could have been very particular and specific, but it gave me confidence to know there's different ways to assess this kind of stuff. And ultimately, through those 13 days, I learned whatever crap you can ride yourself into, you can work yourself out of. And after 3Ks of 10K, 3 days of 10,000 feet in a row, so these are 5, 6, 7 hour days, 3 in a row, I started going, and Bob, my buddy, hey, you should see this Everesting, right? God, so that was the next one. But because I'd done the 3 10Ks in a row, that started to become a possibility. And I started thinking, in a good weather day, let's do this in the winter when it's nicer here. I know I could do 20K. So if I could get to 20K, I could fake that last 10. And they don't care how fast you do it. It's just click in, ride your butt off. You don't get to sleep. That's the only rule. If you sleep, you're out.
Right.
You can take all the breaks you want. So however many times you need to stop, refuel, fill a bottle, change a kit, whatever you need to do, just got to get to the 29 or 30,000 feet in one ride. And that's when I was like, we're going to do this. And so that fall, I took that on. So that was the first one on the road bike. So 22 and a half hours, nutritionally disaster, right? Oh, man, the last 4 or 5 hours, I was just slugging it out. So it was
So,
ugly, but
so
got
tell
it
me
done.
about the fat tire element. So we kind of missed that. So so everyone understands this climb on a traditional bike is one thing, and then tell us what you did.
Well, and so that's a bit of the why behind this, right? So I did it on the road bike, did 22 and a half hours. Now, okay, listen, a lot of people's times are better than that. But I would say, are all those guys 190 pounds? Can I hand them a weight vest and can we keep riding up and down the same hill at the same time? Regardless, it's your own challenge. It's for you to do.
Right.
My road bike probably weighs 17 pounds. I got a fat tire bike that I love to ride around as well. It's heavy, it's noisy. You'd have to post a picture or something for people to understand who don't really know. But this thing's 27 pounds and the tires are 4.5 inches wide. This is not a climbing bike. You should not be climbing on this bike. I actually use it. I actually use it to train. So because when you go ride that around, or God forbid you go chase a group around on that, man, you come off of that and get on your road bike, you're just flying. You're like, this is easy. So from a training point of view, I love it because you're doing stupid. You're making it a ton harder on yourself from them, which you adapt and come back and you're like, this is possible. I've done the road bike Everesting 3 different times. They have a Rome version. You got to do not only the 30,000 feet of climbing, but you also have to they do it in kilometers, but I think it's like 250 miles in that ride. And that one you got to do in under, I forget the facts of it, but like under 36 hours. So I pitched that one in 32 hours on the road bike. So that was just a different spin of it. Tried the road bike again the next year and did it in 16 and a half hours because I got the nutrition right. And I was like, thank God it wasn't a 22 and a half hour day.
Right.
We got done with that one. And my wife's in the driveway. She's like, you're done already? I was like, yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm done. But then after that, it's like, well, okay, what's next? And so through that year, right? So because I do them every now it's every fall. So every year I'll pick one off. But and the closer I got to that one, I was like, what am I possibly going to do with this? Take 16 and a half hours and make it 15? Who cares? Yeah, I'm not the pros. So the pros are doing this in sub 7. If I shave an hour, nobody cares. Then I was like, well, what if I did it in the fat tire? Like, how dumb is that? And so I asked the group online, like, who's done this in the fat tire? So, and now props to these guys, because there's a guy up in Canada, I think, somewhere snowy. I picture Canada. He could be up in Alaska, but he did this crap on the fat tire bike in like 20 degree weather in snow on a snowy gravel climb in full, like he looks like he's in a ski suit, right? In the pictures of it. So my conditions were absolutely perfect. I'm on the street, I'm on the fat tire bike, right? But my weather is what I want other than the wind. That's a whole other story. But so to take this challenge on and say, all right, I was the third guy to finish it, now we got something. So that was motivating to know that I was the third guy ever to accomplish that on the fat tire bike and got it done in like 23 and a half hours that day. So
let's do 180 degrees. Let's take it away from ourselves and let's talk a little bit about parenting. So you've got 2 kiddos, we've got 3. And there's a lot of what we've learned in our lives that I think I know personally I try to impart on my 3. But as it relates to, again, getting back to this theme of competence to confidence, talk to me about that as it relates to parenting and some of the other things you've learned on your journey to, and then going back to us in our childhood, what we weren't getting, in our environment likely. So tell me some of the things you're intentionally imparting into your kiddos that you think will help set them up for a more success or a different cadence of opportunity in life.
There's not much I can say in that space. This is my challenge, right? Because that's just talk. Like if you listen to how I talk with the kids, you'd be like, wow, that's amazing. But like, what do they get? Here's what I hope. I'm still doing it. And they're seeing that. Dad's up every morning on the bike. He's doing what he loves. He loves what he's doing. That's part of the process. It's who I am. If the bike wasn't there, would I get into running? I don't know. Hiking? I don't know. What I have a rowing machine I use often. There will be something. And so from the parenting point of view, I'd say I'm doing that by leading through example. Are we having conversations around it? Yes. Are they well into competitive juniors tennis? They are. And they're loving it. And like anything, there's ups and downs with the whole process. And we talk through some of that somewhere there, but I call out principles when I see them. I guess so. We'll talk about as much like you're doing here, but I rely on much more of the monkey see, monkey do. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, when they start to realize that the world they grew up in is rich with opportunity and the limits are really within themselves and they have examples to rely back upon, launched, right? Because look at where we came from and what we were given and what we had to figure out along the way. If you had just had some of those keys a little earlier, my wife's from Ukraine. I'm from Wisconsin. Never thought I would have met her. Never thought I would have met this quality of woman, right? Constantly challenging me.
Yeah.
God bless her. I drive her up the wall. Where we are, like, I think, okay, that's where we've gotten to from our small lives. Where would our kids grow up? Who even knows? What are they even going to end up doing? I can't begin to imagine what that might look like. So just hopeful to offer enough examples of here's what's worked for me that they could rely back on that and wow, yeah, okay, yeah, and pull that off.
That's really good, and that's very consistent with this idea of more is caught than taught, right? So they see through observation, they see, and that can be in the activities we do outside the house, like with you cycling, what have you. That can be how we talk to our wives, how we engage with them. I for the longest time, I'll tell you, I was the person who kept reading and reading and reading and left brain, just thinking, knowing, but I wasn't applying, right? So this idea of being a practitioner, it's like at some point you have to say to yourself, when does the learning stop and the applying or the practicing start? And I maybe was just it was slow for me to get that under in my head, right? It was slow for me to figure that out. And once I did, I'm like, oh, that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter what you know, it's how you apply what you know. And then as a parent, it's how do your kids see that? And then how consistently does it show up, right?
Right. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's my nugget from you today, because absolutely right. And I consider you smarter than me. So imagine how far behind I am from you from the applying part of things. So yeah.
Very cool. Hey, really enjoying this. So we got one more question before we wrap up, and then I'll ask you a final question. But so when I look at you, and I've had a few other folks on this podcast, and some of these themes of grit, resilience, work ethic, and then this idea of willpower, right? So when I look at you, I see discipline, I see resilience, I see what's next, I see all of this. So this bucket, these intangibles, right? How do you view them? Is it conscious? Is it just part of your DNA? Is it part of your self-image that I'm the type of person who is resilient, is gritty, never gives up? Just talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, I'll give you the moment. The Fat Tire Everesting, the day I did it was a training ride. It was only supposed to be 15,000 feet. I got up but I'm running through the practice. Like I launch at 2 a.m. You want to have a beer conversation with your buddies? Say, all right, you're going to go ride your bike for 24 hours. When do you start that 24 hours? Because you're going to learn a lot about it. What site? When do you want to go through the dark? When do you want a daylight? Starting at 2 a.m., going to do 15,000 feet today, probably 10, 12 hours. That's the plan. I get out there, I'm an hour in riding, take a bathroom break right away. One of my neighbors that I know very well texts me, "You okay?" I'm like, "It's 3 a.m. Why are you?" "Yes, I'm good. Why are you even up?" I was like, "Oh my God." I'm zooming up and down the hill on my fat tire bike with knobby tires on it, right? Every 3 minutes. The whole neighbor, like this never dawned on me. Like I'm keeping the whole neighborhood up. Are you kidding me? Oh my.
Right.
So now I'm this guy. So so from 3 a.m. to about 7 a.m., I'm thinking, I think I got to do this today because I was going to train next weekend and then the one after that. And then the one after that was going to the one I'm going to do it on. These guys are going to like someone's going to just back their car over me. Like I'm done with this noise. We're done
Right.
with you. So Ted pings me and I was like, oh, so this thought dawns on me. I'm like, all right, you know what? The day's open. I can do it today. So we're just going to do it today. I'm feeling good, riding great. I even have a little bit of a tailwind. Somewhere in that morning, the wind shifted and became a legitimate headwind. I'll send you a picture of the flags along the hill, like headwind the whole day. I'm at 12,000 feet of elevation gain. Times are dropping. My calculation in my head's running out. And this is the moment I'm actually riding by my house in tears, somewhere around 11,900 feet, just in tears. No one's around, so I can cry, fine. But like, not good. Get down to the bottom, pull my phone out, and the next one I'm texting my friend, fellow rider, buddy from work saying, "Hey, dude, not going to happen today. Terrible headwinds. It sucks." And he writes back, he's like, "Keep it rolling. I got a few things to wrap up here. I'll be there in 2 hours. You make it to there. We're finishing this." And then I thought to myself, like, this is Everesting, and you chose to do it on a fat tire. And now, right here and now, you're this far in, you're going to complain about a headwind. That's what's going to stop you? Because that's the whole point of the challenge. You're taking on something hard to see what you can accomplish. My health is fine. I I'm not throwing up. I didn't crash. None of it mechanical. I'm just it's here. This broke. And from that moment, I was like, all right, all that headwind is, that's just the challenge. That's just Everesting leaning back into me saying, "Do you want this?" And then my answer was yes. And so I kept going. 12,000 feet became 13,000. It so my response came from getting sad about it to actually just laughing at the wind. And I guarantee you, like probably some of my neighbors are like he's riding up the hill, like now he's laughing, like he's
Yeah.
lost his mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just shifting it, and so it's not like I said, I am grit, I am perseverance. I just thinking about it differently is what then made it a possibility. So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that moment at 12,000 feet, it was not good. It was ugly. That was the bottom of the barrel. So
Yeah, I think I was what bubbles up for me is framing the narrative, right? In your head, right? It's because we
yeah,
could tell ourselves anything. Like we tell ourselves hundreds of stories every day. And probably the most creative stories we can think of, like as to why not to do something or why to quit, right? It's so easy. It's so easy to say no or quit.
yeah,
And I think there's power in this idea of this is self-talk, right? This is how what message are we putting into our minds and allowing it to take hold, or in this case, do the exact opposite. And that is it's hard. And I'm the type of person who doesn't quit when it gets hard, right? It's all narrative. And it's just that's a great story. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right. So before we wrap up, subscribe to this channel, smash the like button, share this video with your friends. Jonathan, as always, we can talk for hours and I get more jazzed up and excited when we talk because I feel like we've got the same DNA and passion for just performance and what's next. And I just really enjoy the conversation. So thank you for making yourself available to have the conversation.
you're welcome, Mike. Thank you for the time and the discussion. It's been fun.